welcome to Mind Your Business, the channel where we are in at everybody's business. If you don't mind getting in people's business, you're on the right channel. Talking about current topics and gossip. The commitment ceremony was definitely interesting this week, as well as the intimacy week in general. So let's get into it, people. Well, well, people, my creative crew, let's talk about Married at First Sight Australia. So this week has been very interesting to watch. So the commitment ceremony, let's discuss this. So first up, they had Cassandra and Tristan. Now, I think they're such a cute couple. They like each other, but are challenged in the area of affection a little bit. Well, they were, but, you know, Tristan did eventually give her a kiss last week, which was nice. But Cassandra obviously wants a bit more affection. I thought it was really, really sad to hear Tristan say that he hated himself. I was like, no, that made me so sad. And the experts also looked quite shocked and were saying that he's using harsh wording. But he was saying that basically he struggled with self-esteem issues. The fact that he's actually saying it out loud is because he's in the experiment, is what he was saying. So I thought it was really sad when they asked him, what does he like about himself? And he said he doesn't really like a lot about himself. And he had a lot to say. You know, he reeled off different things. And then when they asked him what he likes about himself, he didn't have anything to say then. So they kind of threw the question to Cassandra. And she had a lot of lovely things to say. I thought she was really sweet. She's saying that, you know, he's really thoughtful, he's kind, he's patient, he's generous, he's funny, has great energy, cute dimples. Like, you can tell she actually really likes him. So I thought it was really nice that the experts were saying, you know, when you've got negative thoughts coming into your mind, maybe choose some of the words that Cassandra has given you, which, you know, swap them out, basically. And I thought it was also good that Cassandra was able to open up and say that, you know, obviously she does like him, but when he becomes very, you know, self-doubting, she kind of withdraws a little bit. So I think that was good that they highlighted that to him, because he is definitely into her. She likes him. I just hope that he can work on that. So I really want to see those two win, because I think they're really cute. I'm rooting for them. Next, we see Tim and Lucinda. Of course, Tim is coming with his, you know, he feels like he's annoying. I feel like he's just deflecting and saying, really. I feel like he's just flipping the script, because he finds Lucinda annoying, really. Whereas Lucinda's very affectionate, we know this. She's been very open about being affectionate, and she wants someone who she can be affectionate with. She really likes him. She thinks he's a spunk and all this kind of stuff. So she's into him. Obviously, he's saying that she's very touchy-feely. I feel like John gave him very good advice, which was, you know, basically get on board and get comfortable, or watch it all fizzle away. Yeah, I hope he heard that. He doesn't really end up hurting her feelings, because I feel like she's very much into him. He's definitely retreating a bit, and it's not a good look so far. Tori and Jack the Twat. So I thought it was interesting that, you know, John brought up the dinner party. I must say, by the by, that John is one of my fave experts, because he does definitely hold their feet to the fire. So he brings up the whole dinner party and Jack and this whole ex-girlfriend saga that's hit the newspapers, asking him, you know, when did he actually end the relationship with the ex-girlfriend? Now, Jack was sitting there mumbling and sampling, because it went from, it was about 6-7 weeks, or maybe 8 weeks, or 8-9 weeks, 9-10 weeks. I was like, what? Get it together, brother. Get it together. So, you know, he was trying to like jump around a little bit, but John kind of pushed at him and was just saying, well, look, you know, were you in the process and you still had this girl? Did you still have your girlfriend and you were in this process, basically, and taking part in this process and, you know, applying to be on Married at First Sight? He then admits it once he, you know, was pushed into a corner, that yes, he did apply, and yes, he did have a girlfriend, but tries to play down the girlfriend, that she was just disgruntled and it was just like a weekend relationship. But when he started out talking about her, he was saying that I could tell she was in for the long term, but he wasn't that into the long term. So like, why did you do any of this to her in the first place? But calling her disgruntled ex, I just thought, yeah, you're doing the most. You're definitely doing the most. You can see by John's face and the rest of the experts' faces, they didn't look too impressed. Now, what I think surprised John and the others was the fact that when they asked Tori, you know, how do you feel about all this? She's like, oh, yeah, it's fine. What happens from the wedding day forward is what she's concerned with. And she's not concerned with giving energy to a disgruntled ex. So I just thought, this is really giving me, you know, Bronte 2.0 vibes. Like, it's just giving me that, like, blinkers. And it's not nice to watch, because I don't like it. But again, if this is what you want to do, it's giving me a bit of a Muppet vibe. Like, you know, I'm just going to go along with what he says. Because I thought it was interesting when John also brought up the whole sex situation. Have they been intimate yet? And I know it's him, because I feel like she would definitely be up for it. But he seems like he is a slow burn. And that, you know, it's rare that he has an instant, you know, sexual chemistry and all that kind of stuff. And it was interesting because one of the experts, she called him out as well and was a bit like, well, this is a bit different because we spoke at length about, different things and what you're into. So obviously he gave a different impression to the experts. He says that, he's not here for short-term sex. He wants to build a relationship. And I thought it was really interesting that he actually said that what's made him like Tori is the fact all her answers she's given him to this whole ex-girlfriend situation. I'm just like, yeah, because you can tell her what to do. You can kind of treat her like a bit of a muppet, basically. And, she'll just go along with it, is what it's given so far. What was funny, though, was Tim trying to get involved, as in Lucinda's Tim, saying, he feels like it's BS and that there's some more cracks that people are not really showing. Tori gets very defensive and says, well, because I'm not having sex doesn't mean that's a crack. And I thought it was really interesting because Richard pipes up and was like, well, when we was out on a lads' night, the topic did come up about having sex on the first night, would you do that with your new wife or whatever else? And apparently Jack did say that no, he wouldn't. But Tim, as in Tim and Lucinda, apparently he said he would. So if you could see Lucinda's face, she was definitely not impressed because she went from giggling about, him blurting out, oh, it's bullshit and, there's cracks, to looking particularly vexed at the thought that, wow, you said that you'd have sex and she's over here feeling for sex with you and you're not doing anything. So I was like, Lucinda, protect your heart over there, honey, because I don't know what's going on with him, but it's not looking too good. Now, on to Sara and Tim. Now, I was very worried for Tim. I won't beat around the bush. I was worried for Tim. I'm like, is Sara beating you up or bullying you in the apartment? Because it was definitely a weird interaction because, Tim goes to, start speaking about how, they've had it's been good, but they've had some bumps in the road. And she immediately cuts him off and wouldn't let him get a word in edgeway. I'm like, this is very telling. And she kept deflecting all the time. He's trying to get his bits out and, again, trying to deflect. I know, but it's fine, but it's all good. And it just got to the point where even experts are like, okay, hold on a minute. So, Tim, I want to hear from Tim. How do you feel it's been going? And obviously he spoke about the letter and the trust issues and then the task about the phone. But even the task about the phone, I don't think he went into as much detail as he could because he just seemed like he's very scared. He seemed like he's very scared of her, and that's what I got. So I liked that John kind of butted in and was saying, look, you're kind of talking around yourself and you sound a bit nervous. Like, does she intimidate you? And he admitted that, yes, she does. Eventually, he did admit that. But like I said, John is one of my favourite experts because I felt like he put her in her place as well, because he told her that she needs to get more involved and roll up her sleeves. So honestly, I don't know about those two. I definitely got question marks over those two because I feel like it's all her way or the highway. That's what it was given, because when they even left the couch and went to go and sit back down, I felt really bad for him because he was like, oh, sorry, it just kind of came out. And she was like, we'll talk about it later. I just thought, oh my God, this poor guy, like, what is going on behind the scenes? That's a bit scary. What is happening there? I don't think she realises how she comes across, but yeah, that wasn't such a good representation, in that particular moment. I feel like Tim needs to open up and say what he feels, and she needs to listen a bit more too. Ellie and Ben. Now, Ellie mentions, they've been good, but they had a slight bump in the road, and that was about, wanting children, which is a big bump in the road, honestly. But I don't trust Ben on this whole situation. I said it before, I don't think he definitely wants kids. He's saying that he don't mind. She shared that obviously kids is quite on the top of her list because she wants a family. Whereas he, it's not really a big deal for him. He's 50-50. So, she said again, like, oh, well, that's not exactly what you said. And, she lets him know that it's kind of like a deal breaker. He, to me, is just going along with it. He's like, oh, yeah, if I meet the right person, I'm just like, you're kind of along for the ride and you'll just see how it goes. Whereas she definitely wants a family. He doesn't seem like he wants a family. I feel like he's kind of lying. Lauren and Jonathan, they were interesting. They just spoke about having a physical attraction. They've also got their intimacy there. So you could see that they were kind of, well connected in that way, but not on a deeper level. He was saying that he likes to have deep conversations, but she doesn't like to do that, and she's quite aware of it, and she did say she has her walls up, so they told her to step it up a bit, on her emotional side. Now, Eden and Jaden, to the experts, they brought up the whole confessions letter and how that was the biggest challenge because obviously, Jaden admitted to sleeping with his girlfriend's best friend, which is just disgusting. Everybody was shocked. The experts were definitely shocked. He says that, he talking to Eden made him see that it was really wrong and says that he regrets it. John was definitely not in is definitely not impressed with it, because he was saying this is a different guy than the guy that I basically met. And what he did was unacceptable, and it was very toxic, and absolutely agree. And Natalie and Collins. Now, Natalie and Collins, what a damn mess. I mean, they asked about, what happened at the dinner party and how they walked in holding hands and what changed. And Natalie admitted that Collins was saying, well, let's go in and have a united front. And when they walked in, they kind of separated, so she felt on her own. And of course, she also mentioned that he was kind of told her off about, talking badly about the honeymoon, but then she was shaking, and she's the one who asked him to hold her hand. She also mentioned that she lost her dad a couple of months ago too, so obviously she's grieving and she's dealing with quite a lot, so you think she would need a bit more affection. Collins, however, is putting on a very terrible acting performance, if this is what it is, because he's saying, it killed him to hear that she felt alone. So of course John pulls him on it and says, well, how are you showing that you're feeling connected to her? And he's just waffling, he's just lying, talking about, she's just glaring at him, just like, well, what's going on? So again, John says, well, what affection have you shown her? Or now, we still have no answers, people. We still have no answers. He then started talking about, well, she's grieving and, she's dealing with this and she's grieving some, I felt like he was trying to blame that on that, so she can't be as present because she's grieving. So, of course, John said, well, grief aside, grief aside, what else can you be looking at? Then Colin starts to go off like he's an expert. Oh, you can't put grief aside, John. He cuts John off. I was like, what the hell's going on here? John obviously cut him and said, well, hold on, I haven't finished, and lets him know that he's not doing enough. He needs to put more effort in. But then Collins is over here switching up on John. I couldn't believe it. John's asking him, what can you do to make Natalie feel special? Why is Collins over there talking about, no, I'm sorry, I came to advice from you. Like, what the hell is this? I love that John checked him and was like, hold on a minute. You have never been in a relationship, right? So you need to listen. You need to put the work in, and, the ownership is on you to put the work in. I was like, damn, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It was just so funny, but also so awkward. I was just like, oh, clutching my invisible damn pearls. What is going on over there? Weirdly, Colin says that, well, he does want to build, he wants to do life with her. I just feel like he was just saying words that he's read on like Instagram and shit, those ones, just find words and you Google what's a good thing to say, because it just sounded like he was just a bag of quotes. Do you know what I mean? I just want to do life with her. Then he talks about he wants to move in with her. Then you've got Natalie saying, well, she doesn't really trust him. Then he starts with this whole dramatics even more. I can't believe that, he can't believe that he's hearing that. And she feels he just says what she wants to hear and that there's no real connection. He's like, John says, well, how would you describe her? Well, she's a top lady. Like, you sound like you're describing your mum. And she doesn't believe it. She just doesn't believe it. So I thought it was really interesting when it got to, should I stay or should I go? Nah, 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 nah. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so it got there and Natalie said, she chose to leave because she's thinking this is all a bit long and Collins is just not doing what he should be doing. It's a whole hot mess. Collins then turned it into a very un-Oscar worthy actor, because it was just like, what's going on? He's just very dramatic. He's acting shocked. He can't believe he wants to leave, and what should he do? His wife wants to leave. What should he do? They're saying, we just want an answer. But he was just mumbling and stumbling. It was just a lot of dramatics and, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's just like, what is going on? Where did they find this man? Where? Honestly, where? I am still confused. I really don't get what's going on with him. He's definitely baffling. On the positive side, we had Andrea and Richard. They're another couple that I think are so cutesy. Both are very happy. And, I just think they're so cute. Like, Richard's saying that he adores her. And it takes him back to when he was in his 20s. And that, they're good on all levels in terms of intimacy as well. Talking about getting busy 2 to 4 times a day. I was like, excuse me. All right, guys. They're just cute. They're another couple that I'm rooting for as well. So for Tuesday's episode, it was interesting, I would say, because, you start off with Sara complaining to Tim that she's upset about, the fact that he raises concerns at the commitment hearing and she feels like he hasn't raised it with her. You've got them having a little girls' night as well. So Tim leaves and some of the other girls come to Sarah's apartment. So that's Lauren, and you've got Eden and you've got Tori. Anyway, they're talking about, Collins and putting on a performance and just being like, kind of miffed by the way he was acting and saying that he's not ready for a relationship. But I thought none of them seemed to have checked in on Natalie. I was thinking, did you guys even check in on her? Do you have a relationship with her? I don't know. And I was thinking, where's Cassandra? Where's all the other girls? Like, we see Lucinda and Tim, and, you know, I felt really bad for Lucinda. I think she's very lovely. She seems like she's very patient. You know, she seems like she's really kind-hearted. And, you know, she was saying that she felt humiliated, you know, about him referencing that he would sleep with the bride on the first night. And obviously he didn't. Tim tries to play it down and say, you know, he'd had a few drinks and he was just basically talking. And she's basically saying to him, you know, so are you attracted to me? He's not necessarily answering her question, but he's saying, you know, attraction can build, and which isn't necessarily reassuring to her, you know what I mean? And she wants more, and she's asking, you know, what advice are you taking from the experts? He's saying he doesn't know. So to me, I'm just like, this woman is so patient. She deserves so much better. But how is he getting up talking about he's pissed off? It's just all too much for him. He's very much giving man-child energy. That's what he's giving, man-child energy. But anyway, he gets up and he leaves. He said that he's pissed off. And I just thought, you're taking liberties, because she deserves much better than the kind of reaction she's getting from him. But she has been very, very patient with him. I will say that. Like, she definitely has a patience of a saint at this point, because he is definitely rejecting her, and that rejection is upsetting her. But she's still trying to, you know, push through. He does return, and he does say that he felt a bit bad, and he knows that she was hurt. But he says this in the confessional. But we know that Tim has issues with, to me, reaching his emotions. He seems like he's a little bit emotionally unavailable anyway. And it kind of annoys me a little bit, because I feel like she kind of panders to him. But I think that's also why they paired them together, because they said that, you know, she's quite patient. But I'm like, please don't be a walkover. Like she did say in the confessional that she's worked on herself, you know, to build herself up. To me, she's showing up as her best self. That's the vibe that she's kind of giving. You know, she sees chemistry there, and she really does like him. She's grateful to him, and she really affirms him. You know, she's always complimentary of him. And I don't know if it's the edits, but I don't see him, you know, giving her that same energy in return. Now, we see Jack and Tori. You know, Jack is saying that he is trustworthy and he's there for her. And, you know, she did say in the confessional part that, you know, she doesn't really love the whole article situation, but they have a connection and she's happy to kind of move forward. So it is intimacy week. And I thought, when they said that, I thought this is going to be interesting, because how's this going to work for Natalie and Collins? Because we already know that them two are already in separate apartments. And then we actually see them, and we see Collins saying that he's learned a lot of advice, and he's going to take it on board, and he's going to go down, you know, go and see Natalie, which he does, and go see Natalie. And it's still very awkward. He gives her a hug at the door. I thought, okay, let's see how this goes. But he's still giving a very surface level, like, hey, yeah, you know, I think it's great, and we had a great wedding day, and, you know, I think you're great. And it's just like, you can see, it's just like, it was not a great performance. And I don't know if that's just him, because I feel like if that is him, he's got some therapy work to do, because what the hell? Like, what the flip is going on here? Nat basically says that to him and says, you know, she's sorry, that she just feels like he's given an Oscar performance, and he looks like he gets a little bit upset about it. But Natalie just said basically, you know, at the end of the day, if that is the real you, then you're just not for me. And so Natalie decided that she's going to exit the process. I'm not surprised, because I just felt like, I don't know why you came back in the first place. I felt like Collins is just emotionally unavailable, and but obviously, you know, you were matched together, but it just seemed pointless coming back, because you came back to say you wanted to leave, and then you end up meant to be staying, and you still left anyway. But I didn't blame Natalie at all, because I just felt like she needed to exit. It was just really cringe to watch it, and I feel like Collins should do some sort of therapy and some self-discovery, because, Lord, what is this? What is going on? And Natalie, yes, I hope she does find love, because the poor girl, you've lost your dad, you're in this experiment, you feel like you were somebody who doesn't really get you. It doesn't seem like she was that close to any of the girls, because I didn't see any of the girls go and check in on her. Maybe they did, but they didn't show it to us. But we definitely didn't see like Tori or Lauren and the others, and Sara and Eden. I didn't see them necessarily going and checking on her. So I don't know if she was maybe cool with some of the other ladies on the show. I don't know. But yeah, it was weird. And I felt like they actually exited at the right time, because intimacy week is definitely not for them. It's definitely not for them. Especially when the first intimacy task was genital cupping with Ben and Ellie, and then we saw Lauren and Jonathan do that too. They had no problems with that. But Lauren I should say, had problems with eye gazing later on. So it's just like, ugh. Anyway, she's an interesting one. And we see Andrew and Richard, they done the eye gazing task. They were pretty fine and cute. Talk about how they adore each other. Lucinda and Tim, they done the eye gazing task too. I felt like Lucinda was definitely into it. I feel like she likes him. She's always complimentary, like I said. Whereas he was saying he found it a bit more intense, but that's because he's definitely not emotionally available. But the next day, though, I thought was interesting was the argument that they had. Because, apparently they were okay after the eye gazing, but the next day it was a problem because she came to bed and she said that she usually sleeps naked, and she said that she's topless in the bed. He's in there. Obviously, apparently he sleeps with his undies on, but he felt upset that she was shirtless in bed. I'm like, what the actual flip is going on here? So he's saying he feels pressure and, he wants to hit the reset button. He basically requested that she comes to bed with a shirt on. So, of course, she felt very rejected. Like, hello, I've got boobs. I like to sleep naked, usually at home. I've been wearing PJs for you. Essentially, you've been, doing what you want to do. So it can't just be all his work. I do feel like she's always acquiescing to him. She's always compromising. She's always, she's like just getting blown in the wind. Whatever way he blows, she's blowing, and she's trying to be patient with it. So it was good to see her get a little bit fiery and push back at him. And tell him that, he was being rude, and also tell him that, you also have boobs. That cracked me up. I was like, tell him about his man boobs, girl. Tell him, because this guy's taking liberties. And she was like, right, I'm going to tell you about your man boobs and I'm out of here because, Lucinda's still on a good vibe. So she just thought, I'm going to let that go. But yeah, it's hard seeing their interaction sometimes. I feel like she seems like she's really sweet. We see Lauren and Jonathan. You've got Lauren who's moaning about doing this eye-gazing task, and she's not happy with Jonathan because he just goes along with whatever they've been told to do. Well, that is part of the show, right? You do this task or you get closer. They set the task for a reason. I just felt like she was just picking at him and being a bit dramatic, to be honest. And the next task that they had, which was a listening task, he did tell her that he feels like, sometimes she's cold one day and warm the next day. Then she tried to bite his head off. So it's like, he's trying to tell you how he feels, and then you're pushing back and saying, well, hold on a minute, you've been together, you never told me this. But obviously he has problems talking about his feelings, so it's a give and take situation. So I just felt like she's being quite unreasonable. She's saying it's not fair for her to just hear about this, and, I just felt like she just came across a bit rude. I understand some of the things what she's saying, but no, she's just a bit rude to me. I feel like she's nice to him when she's had some alcohol, which is a bit unfortunate. We see Alexandra pop in on Tim and Lucinda, which cracks me up because Tim looked petrified. The man looked like he saw a ghost at the door. Like, what the hell? Alexandra was setting them a task of doing the melting hug. Of course, Lucinda's all up for it. I mean, hugs are really sweet. I mean, who doesn't like hugs? But then we get to find out Tim doesn't like hugs because when he used to try and hug his dad used to tell him to basically get away from him. So obviously he has a child that will leave, certain print in you. So I was like, oh, okay. So it was good actually he opened up about that. But it was also good that he did still get up and hug Lucinda. And it looked like they both enjoyed it. He said it was pleasant. And of course, Lucinda, she loved it all. Jack and Tori, their task was to discuss sex and what they're into. I thought it was interesting because they were showing some of his flashbacks of when he was doing his interviews, and he was talking about, he can tell within 15 seconds if he's into a girl and if he wants to have sex with a girl. So I'm thinking, oh, well, clearly you're just, it's clearly you're not into Tori because you've been with her for longer than 15 seconds. So he was also expressing to Alexandra in the flashback that, he's definitely not vanilla. And we got to hear a bit more about that because obviously when they were doing the tasks, and, they had a list of things that they might be into. You could say yes, no, or maybe. It was interesting because they were going down the list. Pinching was something that they were both into. But when it got to golden showers, Tori was like, nope. I'm like, yes, Tori, I hear you on that, honey. You can leave that in the toilet. Okay. And he's into it. So, it says, oh, yeah, he's into it. So she was like, no, maybe you need to go to church. She was definitely not on that one. So back to Lauren and Jonathan. It ends with them, and them two are going off on each other. She's going off about, him being like a robot and being too monotone and all this stuff. It kind of is a bit more personal attack towards him. Jonathan tells her, to stop cutting him off, and she's always speaking 90% of the time. And then, he's basically agreeing and saying he will do the things that he wants to do, and she's not happy that he just sounds one way. I see what she means. He doesn't really have the inflection in his voice when he's talking, the emotional connection. But then that makes sense to me because he did say he spent 20 years trying not to be reactive. So I don't know about these two. I just don't know. At the start of Wednesday's show was that we saw Ellie speak to her diary cam, and she was expressing that she was a bit upset about Ben, who apparently mocked her. And we hear a bit more about that at the intimacy workshop, the ladies' one. So we'll get back to that in a second. So, of course, because it's intimacy week, they're still running through all the different tasks. Lauren and Jonathan, they had the kind of hugging task, whereas Tori and Jack, who I refer to as sort of Harrison and Bronte 2.0, Tori is very much giving, she's very into him. She really fancies him, which is why I feel like her blinkers are on and she's completely missing all his red flags. But anyway, they had the eye gazing task and also the genital cupping. If you're looking at him, it looked like he couldn't kind of wait to finish, where she's all into it. She's saying things like, I know what he's thinking, and, she's really into him. And the truth is that Tori is very much far off the radar, because that's not the energy that he's giving or even saying. Because she's so smitten, she's just, like I said, she's just not clocking the red flags. We see Tim and Sara. Now, I do have a red flag about Sara. I just feel like she's problematic. But anyway, they had an eye-gazing task. He was saying that, he wants to support her and he's talking to her about his intention. So, she seemed like she enjoyed the attention and said that she feels like he does like her. Ben and Ellie, we didn't really see them do a task because they had a disagreement from the night before where they, went to dinner and he apparently was mocking her. So they weren't really on great terms. So we didn't see them do a task as such. But we do see Ellie talking about her having doubts, whether he's there for the right reasons, and talking about what happened at dinner and saying that, whenever he was talking, it was like he was speaking about the future, but he didn't necessarily include her, which is also a massive, giant red flag. But again, Ben, I'm not sure about him. He gives me opportunist and he gives me he's there for the wrong reasons at the moment. Now, during the workshop, I thought it was interesting because Jack talks about how he's very dominant in the bedroom usually. But he did say that he has no sexual spark with Tori whatsoever, no sexual chemistry there at all. So Tim, has in Lucinda's tin, is like, in confessionals for himself, saying things like, oh, well, he wonders if Tori knows that because he can tell that Tori's very much into him. And I thought that was interesting because I was thinking, whether they're having sexual chemistry or not, usually worrying about Lucinda. Whilst I agree that, Tori does need to know, you, on the other hand, are not really paying any attention to Lucinda, who actually needs that sexual chemistry with you. Do you have it in your own relationship before you start going to point fingers? Ben, however, just plays around the whole question. When Alessandra asks him, how are you getting on with Ellie? He's like, oh yeah, things are fine, things have been easy, Ellie's happy. It's like, no, she's not happy. She's had a disagreement with you. You really know she's not happy about what's going on. But I thought it was interesting that Alessandra did pick up on the whole kid thing and said, that having a kid is a deal breaker for Ellie. So I think he definitely ingested that, because later on he's has his epiphany. The guy, I just don't trust him at all. I just think he's very dodgy and he's just there to boost his own profile. Now, when the ladies had their intimacy workshop with Alessandra, it was interesting. You've got Sara saying she did enjoy the eye gazing with Tim. Cassandra, however, shared that she's been struggling a bit with Tristan because of his moods and the way he feels. He's very up and down. So now it's like it's gone from her liking him to her, not liking him as much because he doesn't like himself. So it's turning her off. So Alessandra was saying, you can get it back. You can get that kind of spark back, but obviously you've got to work at it. Ellie said that she was looking forward to this week, but currently not feeling connected. But she wasn't at that point feeling very connected to Ben. Shared what happened on their date night. So they went on a date night. He asked her if she believed that he was there for the right reasons. So apparently she told him this, yes, four times she told him yes. And he mocked her apparently in a high-pitched voice, which, is just bang out of order. So everyone, all the ladies were definitely not happy about that. Alessandra wasn't happy about that. And a few ladies were saying that they've got their kind of, antennas up for Ben and not sure that he's really there for the right reasons. So some of them are really clocking that he's absolutely full of shit, basically. Now, what was quite funny is after that, she's gone back to her apartment. Ben is telling her, oh, well, guess what? I've had an epiphany today. I'm like, this is such bullshit. I could just tell by his face. He's just bullshitting. He's telling her that he spoke to his sister. He heard his nieces and nephews in the background. They were making noise and crying. But somehow, during this time, he's decided that he actually wants kids now. But honestly, I just feel like because of Alessandra telling him that having kids is a deal breaker, he's thinking, oh, I might end up getting out of the experiment sooner than I should. So let me just dangle this carrot because we know that Ellie really wants kids. So that's where I think that's coming from. I don't believe him at all. It's giving game player vibes to me. But Ellie, I feel like because she so much wants a family and it's so big to her, she was just happy to hear that and was like, oh, wow, I was just saying to the girls today that I don't think you want that, or I weren't sure if he was here for the right reasons. But this is why he's doing that, because he realises people are clocking onto his bullshit. But I hope she wakes up from this, because I don't believe him. I really don't at the moment. And I think she seems like a really sweet girl, so it's just disappointing. Now, Jack and Tori, however, their task was a bit different. They're one of the couples that haven't been intimate. And we already now know that Jack is not necessarily into her, because he's admitted that. And he just gives, you know, as I've called him before, he gives me very much Jack the Twat vibes to me. So he's very full of himself. But part of this full of himself is this control freak side of him. Because I have noticed that he never lets her read the task. She has actually said, can I read it? And he just won't let her read it. He reads it to her. That's part of his control freak side. And their task was to kiss for 5 minutes, you know, to make your partner feel desired. He didn't, you know, look or sound like he was, you know, happy to do that. So he changed it to 2 minutes. Control freak, once again. She didn't say anything. She was just like, okay, she's very excited. I just feel very sorry for her at this point. Because in her mind, and what she believes is that there is some sexual chemistry there, and, you know, she's really into him and she feels like he's into her. And it's like, no, this guy is not into you at all. He's already said there's no spark to the guys, but he hasn't been brave enough to tell you that. But also he won't tell you that because he wants to control you. You know, she wants to sleep with him. She's talking about, well, it's intimacy week. It's going to be weird if we get to the end of the week and we haven't really, you know, slept together. But that's not what he's thinking. He knows that she wants him, and he's using that to his advantage, because he said himself that, you know, there's no wow factor for her yet, but, you know, he doesn't feel like he desires her yet, but her desiring him makes him feel sexy. It means that he likes having the power and the control. So you can really see that he has a control and he can lead the way, and basically, you know, use it like a puppet. He can just do what he wants, essentially. I also noticed with the kissing task, because don't forget, he done it for 2 minutes, not 5. And he abruptly ended that. He was like, okay, that's it now, and kind of jumped off the bed. You could tell she was kind of like, oh. But I think it's really interesting, because she did start off saying, when they first got married, she was saying she's this strong woman. But then now in like this week's episodes, she's been saying, you know, that she feels like he's good. She's never been with like a dominant man like him before. So I feel like she's trying to be the submissive type for him. And he's definitely lapping it up. But at the end of the day, I feel like he's taking advantage of her because he's not being genuine, because she's really into him. So I feel a bit bad for her at the moment. But at the same time, I feel like she's got her blinkers on, and she needs to damn well wake up, because she can see that Ben's a red flag, but she can't see that the guy that she's sleeping next to is a red flag. Make it make sense. Now, we see Alexandra pop in to see Tristan and Cassandra, because we know Cassandra's expressed that she's having problems, you know, with him. So she wants to help them. And, you know, Tristan admits that he has been doing certain things to kind of self-sabotage. You know, he wants to know if she's attracted to him. And because of what's going on and the way his mood swings are, obviously that's having an impact on her. So Alexandra asks them both, you know, just based on today, are you attracted to each other? So he said yes, and she said no, but she gets a bit emotional as well. And she expresses that it's because of his moods, you know, the negativity is obviously spreading. So, you know, she's basically missing happy Tristan, you know, the lively Tristan that he can be. And, you know, she basically sent her a task and said, can you do the eye-gazing task? And it seems to have helped them a little bit. And I'm glad it has helped them, because I do want them to get along really well. I'm kind of rooting for them too, because I think they're just both so sweet. Next, we see Tim and Sara. Now, this part really annoyed me, because you've got Tim who's explained to Sara, I've booked you a date, we're going to go out. She seems very excited. He's chuffed that, you know, he's taking the lead. She wants him to take the lead. Then we see others on a date. So we see Cass go on a date with Tristan. They go and do some painting. We see Tori and Jack, they're on a date. And Andrea and Richard doing some sort of dancing or something. So everyone, some of the other couples were having their little dates, which is really cute to see that they're doing that. But the next day, you've got Tim, who's ready to take out Sara on her date. And this woman is in the bed sleeping, talking about she's hungover because she was out the night before with her girls. So I'm like, if you know you've got a date night, like, go out with your friends, but let's be responsible, yeah? Just get up. You might be a bit hungover. Have a hangover drink or something. Have a Coke. Go and have a fry up. Get your ass up and go on the date. Like, what is this? She's being very selfish to me. And then he reveals that he's actually planned 3 dates for her over the weeks, and she has cancelled every single one of them. But she seems to have time to go out with her friends. I'm like, no. This girl is giving very selfish vibes. I'm not feeling it at all. I just think she's rude, and he's getting fed up. You know, he's starting to feel let down by it all, which is understandable. He's trying to make an effort, and she's just not I felt like she was really rude. She was definitely gaslighting him. He tried to express that he's frustrated because she's cancelled the dates on him. It makes him feel like she doesn't want to be around him and that relationship is not important to her. Now, instead of her just being like, yeah, apologising sincerely, she did apologise, but it didn't seem sincere. She was saying things like, you know, she needs her own time. She likes to have time with her friends. And, you know, she apologised for cancelling the date, but she doesn't know what to do to make him feel secure. Again, it sounds so gaslighty. It's really terrible. He didn't say anything about you having friends. I don't think that's the issue. The issue is that you cancelled on him a number of times, but yet keep saying you want him to take the lead. So essentially you're being full of shit. So I don't understand that one. So that didn't end very well on Wednesday night. They were both a bit at odds. He was trying to express his feelings. I felt like she was kind of gaslighting his feelings. And yeah, she's been to me a bit selfish and ungrateful that he's actually trying to put in the effort. The fact that you couldn't get your ass up because you're hungover when you knew you had a date and acted like you were all excited speaks volumes. So it's not a good look. Dinner party time, and this is a time that I really tend to enjoy, as we all do. Once everyone starts arriving at the venue for dinner, it was interesting because you've got Sara and Tim. They get there first, and I feel so bad for Tim because Sarah's giving him like the cold shoulder-ish kind of vibes, and I'm just not feeling it. They almost they start kind of talking and get into almost an argument basically, and then you've got Lauren and Jonathan who walk in right into that mix-up. So, you know, that kind of put a stop in their tracks basically. Anyway, what was interesting is all the couples started to arrive. You know, you got Tristan, he came and sat with the guys at one point, and I really liked the fact that Jonathan tried to sort of reaffirm him and let him know that, you know, it makes him sad when they heard what he was saying on the couch, you know, about him not liking himself and saying that he's a wonderful guy. So I thought that was really nice. They're really supportive. Now, Timothy, Lucinda, they arrive, and, you know, he arrives in a red jacket like a blasted devil, yeah? And you've got Lucinda, who, to me, he just has lovely energy, you know? So it's annoying me the way he kind of behaves right now. Now, Lauren, whilst I find it a little bit annoying the way she treats Jonathan here and there, I will say that I like that she's very spot on and insightful when it comes to the other guys. Clocked on to Ben, and she sees that he's manipulative, trying to coach Ellie, you know, trying to put on a show that there's some sort of united front. But there's something not right about him, and like I've been saying, and this week I've definitely noticed it, because obviously as we go on, we're going to see more of the couples reveal themselves. So he's been revealing himself. Now, I will say this, though. I do notice that Tori and Ellie have something in common, and that's that they both are into their guys quite a lot and are ignoring the signs. And it's interesting to see, but also really irritating, because it's just like, girls, please. So Lauren was quite right, because when Ben and Ellie enter, like, it's just like he was trying to stay close to her, you know. He told her to move around, like, you know, to, you know, mingle, basically. I'm just like, well, I'm sure she knows how to mingle. It's fine. And then when she did go and sit with the girls, he went and kind of made a beeline and stood like right near her. So he was hovering around them. So it was really good that Lauren kind of switched seats with her, and then was like, they were trying to say like, how's it going? And you could see Ellie was uncomfortable, so she can't really, you know, speak because she's in earshot. So they moved over to the other couch on the other side, which was a very smart thing to do. So Ellie then reveals that, in addition to what happened at the intimacy workshop, where, you know, she shared that he was mocking her at dinner, which was just ridiculous. He basically told her that he doesn't think that they are a match. He doesn't believe that they are a match. And this is what he said to her face. So obviously she's getting upset about that, and she left that night and went and stayed somewhere else. And apparently the next day he apologised, cooked her dinner and got her some wine, and, you know, wrote some stuff about her. And I just feel like he's full of crap. And unfortunately, because she so wants to have a family with children, she's just trying to focus on that. And I feel like she can see the red flags, but she's just trying to convince herself and believe that, yeah, whatever he says, that he's just trying to make a go of it, because he's saying, no, it's the pressure, it's the experiment. So, you know, he just had a moment or whatever. So she's just buying that. But no, he's full of shit. I'm sorry. I did like that Sarah did say that, you know, they didn't trust him. Because I was thinking, yeah, you can't trust him. He's got an opportunistic vibe going on. So anyway, that was when they were sitting outside, and then they go in for actual dinner. And obviously Lauren is definitely heated about this, about hearing about how Ellie's been treated. So she kicks it off with questions and straight at Ben. He goes onto this, oh, well, I nearly walked out and it's the pressure getting to me. He mentions nothing about the bullshit that he said to Ellie about, not matching. So I like that Sara did call him on that and was saying, well, she aired out what he said about them not being a match. So then he's just like, you can see that he's been so manipulative that he thought he had her under control to the situation where she wouldn't spill it, but she did, which I'm glad she did. But what was interesting was watching Ellie defend him. Because I'm like, even the experts who are watching it, obviously remotely, are saying that, she's defending him. I was like, exactly, she's actually defending him more than he was defending himself. And then Sara asks him, does he believe that she is his match? And he took so long to answer the questions. He took so long to answer the question. And all the other questions that he was getting answered, he was mostly trying to dodge them. But in answer to this question, he says yes. But no one believes him because he looks like he's lying. It's just, please, can you stop? We can tell you're lying. Like, stop the fakery. And even Jonathan was like, it's okay if you're not there. You can see that Jonathan and Jaden, they will clock him that he's lying. I think everyone could see that he's lying. He's just such a dodgy character. It's ridiculous. He lies about the children because I don't feel like he wants the children. I mean, look at his face. There's no joy in your face when you're saying these things. It's just like you're just deadpan. It's just not matching. I just feel like he's there, has an opportunistic moment. He's using it to dangle to keep himself there. He's thinking about his business. He's thinking about whatever he can get at the end of this show. That's all he's thinking about from what I can see. But Ellie is into him and she's not seeing it. I just think he's a joker. He was dodging questions, the whole time. He's just not really into her. And I feel like he's definitely a time waster and a manipulator. But the difference is that he's not that great because others can see through it. He's just a joke at this point. I'm not impressed. So Timothy, as in Lucinda's Timothy, he's over on the table moaning about how it's a love fest when he's looking around and some of the couples are being lovey-dovey. I was just watching thinking, you do realise this Married at First Sight, they're supposed to have a connection, yeah? Because he's too busy just being negative. Because it's like he looks around for his target and obviously we really know he's got it in for Tori. And I don't feel like he's got it in for her in a way like, oh, I'm looking out for you. Jack is not really into you. I just feel like everything's out of spite. Like my thing was, is there something there like an undercurrent? Does he fancy her or something? Like, like in school, you get the kid who's mean to you because he actually likes you and stuff. Like, it's giving that vibe. Because why are you so invested? It's not like you're doing it out of sincere concern. Like with the ladies trying to talk to Ellie and trying to question him. You can see it's coming from concern for her feelings because they know that she wants to get married and she wants to have kids. And they can see that he's very dodgy. But with Timothy now, I feel like he's just given the energy that he's just been messy, like a little devil in the mix, Like, when someone's unhappy, so they're just trying to make other people unhappy. I just don't get it. Because he's got Lucinda there, who's such a lovely, nice person. But he's basically decided to target Tori, of course. He already had his eyes set on her. And I get it, because I do think Jack is full of shit. But I just feel like, Timothy, you're not coming from the right place. So I don't like it coming from you. So he basically hears Tori telling one of the girls about, the experience, the task that they were doing and having to do the cupping and just saying, how that was going. And he's like, yeah, I call bullshit. He just jumps in there with his negativity. Tim is basically saying, yeah, he takes aim and says, I don't believe it, it's real, basically. He says it's basically fake. And, he doesn't buy it because, they're both kind of sexual people and it's just not happening. It's not happening. He doesn't buy it. But what I thought was interesting about that, because he's already heard Jack say that there's no sexual chemistry, he could actually just say it. Why is he beating around the bush and saying, I don't think this, I don't think that? He could have actually just said, well, Jack, you said it out your mouth that there's no sexual chemistry. That would have did the whole situation. But I feel like he was just being mixy. So, yeah, Jack was looking like, oh, he might throw him in the bus, but, try to act like, well, why are you saying those things? He was just keeping it there because he knew what he said already. So, obviously, Tori's not happy about, the fact that he's trying to push against it. So she says, what about you guys? You guys have no connection over there. She says, I like you, Lucinda, but you have no connection. And then he started waffling on about, he's been out with, when he goes out with people, it's a bit different. Sometimes it's like they're not together, but they do go out. But he just started waffling. Then Lauren popped in and said, well, didn't you say you dated someone who's a 23-year-old girl? So I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is your sticking point. This is your issue. Because this is very interesting, because he tried to move it on. And then in his confessional, he said, oh, well, dated from 23 to 53. I just thought, yeah, I reckon you like him young. I thought it was interesting, because why did he abstain? I was there the other day bigging him up because he abstained from doing the judging and saying, what is, what's he look like going with a younger girl? But you've been with a younger woman, you just said that. So what really is the deal here? Because you could have then just participated in the task. What was the problem? You didn't want to have to rate Lucinda and be honest. Is that what it was? So you're just wasting her time, because she does definitely deserve better. But yeah, so with that, it makes me think again, does he fancy Tori? Like I said, it's not coming from a genuine place to me. Like, why is he so hell-bent on trying to tear them down for not being intimate when he himself hasn't been intimate with Lucinda? So mind your own business at this point, because you're not coming from a genuine place. If you were being genuine about it, then I'd be like, okay, you should try and look out for her, because maybe there is something going on, but you don't care about that. I just feel like he's it's not coming from a good place. It's not nice. Of course, Tori's going in on him and saying, well, truth is you don't like your wife. I just felt so bad for Lucinda, because it was very awkward. It was very embarrassing. You could tell that she's such a good energy person. It was horrible. And then someone asked Lucinda, like, how do you feel about it? And she basically says that, well, actually, I'm assessing if Tim is for me at this point, because, she's got to look about her needs as well. And I thought, good, because you have been bending the whole time and he's not giving enough. It's really, really, really bad. I feel so bad for her, because she's like, that nice, happy energy. So I'm looking forward to seeing how next week goes when she speaks up on the couch. I'm looking forward to that. So they move on to Cassandra and Tristan. Obviously, they're doing better, and Tristan shares that he went to the gym and he bought her some flowers, and she was gushing about the flowers, and they're in a sweet place. Like, they are actively working on making things better. So that's really, really good. Now, Jack decided to ask Tim how he's getting on with Sara. Now, obviously, Tim shared about the fact that, Sara counseled on him 3 times. He set up 3 dates for her, and that's every week, basically. So she's counselled him on every single week, which is absolutely disgraceful. And I love that Cassandra was the one that put her in her place, because, in her confessional, she was like, oh my gosh, if, I had planned 3 dates for Tristan and he cancelled all them, I'd absolutely be feeling terrible. So she could completely get where Tim is coming from, as most of us can who are watching the damn show. So I say, big up Cassandra, because she clocked the bullshit that Sara was up to, and she called her out on it as well. She just told her, she says her name wrong slightly, and then Sara corrected her. But I was like, yep, she didn't lose her focus. She went straight with the part, which was, we all cleared out our diaries essentially to be here, to be involved in this process. Your husband should be a priority as well. Like, how can you cancel 3 dates in a row? Like, anyone would be upset about that. So I love that she checked her on that. But then she's over there making excuses, and she's very defensive, making excuses, talking about, well, it's hard because we're with each other 24/7. And it's just like, no, you came here for a reason, and you're not taking no responsibility, no accountability. It was very disappointing to see her behave this way. She can't take criticism whatsoever. She's like to shut him down. He's trying to get his word out. He can't get his words out. She's not letting him have a voice, like he said. And then he ended up raising his voice so that he can try and be heard. Then she gets loud at him, and she's being rude. She's swearing. She's going off crying. So, it was just a mess. It was a mess, but it's a mess because of her reaction and her not letting him speak. But we see that anyway. We saw it on the couch lot when they were there for their first week. He barely got a word out. So I feel bad for him. He got to his breaking point. You can see even the experts could see that he got to his breaking point. And she doesn't seem to care about his feelings, just only about hers. So obviously, Tim's just basically getting the blame. But I like that the guys tried to support him and could see. Jonathan could definitely see what's going on. But the guys could see, that it's not easy for him. And he did take responsibility and said that he shouldn't have shouted at her and he's going to apologise and stuff. But it was just interesting to see, because even when the girls were trying to comfort her when she was crying, she was still being kind of obnoxious, because at least Tori kind of caught onto it and was like, well, it's basically Tim making an effort, so she's cancelled 3 dates on him. That's a problem, isn't it? So she's taking the piss. But she doesn't seem to be listening. And she doesn't think that she's wrong. So I felt bad for Tim, really bad for him. He seemed like a really nice guy. He apologised to her. He wasn't happy with himself for raising his voice. But you could tell that she antagonises him. And she doesn't listen. But anyway, he takes her to the side to apologise to her and to explain why he did end up raising his voice, because he didn't feel, that he was being heard. She could have just at least given him a little bit of leeway, but she's like, well, there's no reason. There's no reason for you to raise your voice. There's absolutely no reason for it. So she starts going off at him again. So, and then she's coming across very rude and annoying. And I'm just like, oh, this is going left. This is not going good at all. Then it's giving off the energy like, whatever he does is not good enough. And then she's telling him that he's been egged on by the boys, which they weren't really egging him on. I just feel like he was just trying to voice his concerns. So essentially she was gaslighting him and belittling him. So to me, she antagonised him again. And then he started to raise his voice again. So, yeah, it was just going around in circles. I don't feel like she respects his feelings at all. So it was really, really annoying to watch her then storm off and start crying again, acting like she's the innocent one. She is not. But anyway, that was this week's Married at First Sight. It's starting to heat up now. I'm trying to stick with weekly recaps, people, but I might be dropping ones in between because it's definitely a lot going on here. But what do you guys think of the show? What do you think of the whole situation with Sara and Tim? What do you think about what I said about Tim and, as in Lucinda's Tim? Because I think Lucinda's like, good vibes and she deserves much better. Tim is giving me that energy now that, yeah, maybe he fancied Tori, which is why he's going after her. And maybe that's more what he likes, younger women. But yeah, it's a weird one. But what do you guys think of all of this? Because I think it's been an interesting week. And I'm definitely looking forward to next week. Anyway, of course, I had to check on social media because I want to see what Twitter was saying. And Twitter's always lighting up about this. So here are a few tweets from the week that made me chuckle. Anyway, people, what do you think of the show? Let me know your thoughts below. Yes, so thanks for watching that. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell so you know when I am uploading some more of people's business. So until then, my nosy people, stay blessed.